Hello again. As always, I struggle to find topics to talk about. Today I came to talk about some mantras in Washingtonia because, as I said the other time, we have Washingtonia for a while. The worst thing is that I don't even know how to talk about today's topic without YouTube getting angry. Because this time we are gonna talk about another woke mantra in Washingtonia that I don't know if it's worse than the mantra I talked about the other day, but it is one of the most absurd and worrying mantras I've heard on the Washingtonia internet in a long time. And it's worrying for reasons we'll see later. As if the wokes there wanted to convince Cry, the best person in the world, to believe them, but they can't because she already has quite stable ideas and they are ideas contrary to the mantra. What mantra am I talking about? I'm talking, of course, about the mantra that pro-life people are white supremacists. Yes, we start so bad. It may seem like a joke, but there are many woke people in Washingtonia who believe, without any irony, that the pro-life movement, yes, the anti-abortion movement, is motivated by the agenda of fascist white supremacy. Why? Look it up. Listen, the woke people in Washingtonia are much more angry, paranoid, and extreme than here in Latin America or Spain. In Washingtonia, wokes are already completely crazy, and their perception of reality is completely altered. It's not for nothing that the mantra I talked about in the other video was a topic I wanted to cover and even translate to English for y'all at first. Because if woke people in Washingtonia think that everyone thinks the way they want, but they think the world is only Europe, why should it be surprising that they think that pro-life equal to you know? And that's the mantra I wanted to talk about today. The mantra that anti-abortionists are quite you know. In the USA, abortion was legalized nationwide in 1973 by the Roe vs. Wade decision, which allowed it to 24 weeks of pregnancy. Obviously, pro-abortionists wanted it to remain legal, and anti-abortionists wanted it to be made illegal again, or at least for the laws to be stricter in this regard. And some states tried to ban or restrict abortion. What's going on? Many of those states were from the South, the deep South. You can imagine where the liberals, pseudo-liberals in the USA started using it to discredit pro-life as, yes, that hominem fallacy, and judging people from a place today by what their ancestors did when the people in question were not even fetishists. Since the states of the South were pro-slavery a century and a half ago, and segregationist 60 years ago, it means that anything conservative or not modern woke enough they don't know is due to crazy, you know. Of course, Ed. You know you are in deep troubles when you accuse someone or something of something you have to pull out their ancestors were like that card. The other nonsense is that it's to increase the number of whites, and another mantra is the Southern strategy of Republican presidents Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan, which supposedly started making the Republican Party more conservative to appeal to Southerners. And of course, then comes Donald Trump and signs he's obviously Hitler because Trump unleashed a third world war, of course. And the biggest racist and misogynist in Washington, well, obviously they are incels and white supremacists. Note that I'm satirizing the mantra. The worst part is that they completely ignore that not all anti-abortion people are white. Well, it's to be expected that they ignore it, taking into account that they think that minorities have to be left-wing, yes or yes, or that the whole world, which for them is only Europe, is more woke than the primitive Washingtonian. Of course, they would believe that everything about banning abortion in Texas, Oklahoma, Mississippi, and those states is a conspiracy of the old white-eyed Anglo-Saxon neo-Nazi fascist incels. Sure, they do not understand the idea that a black, a Latino, an Arab, indigenous, Asian, African, or Jewish person can be anti-abortion because, what do I know, considering abortion to be murder, or that it is an offense to God, or whatever equivalent they have, or both. And in case anyone needs examples, my favorite example is Clarence Thomas, a Scottish judge who is black and voted to overturn Roe's Wade to allow each state to ban abortion if the local population wanted. And I don't see Thomas as someone who looks like a white supremacist or a racist. Another example is that, well, in many Latin American countries it's illegal to have an abortion, or at least the restrictions are greater than in many places in Washington or Europe. And here in Latin America there are more people against abortion than in Washington, and using someone's skin tone to guess their position on the matter, it is not gonna help you because, well, that's racist. Melanin does not influence your mentality, and you're gonna make her to get angry with you. What I think makes the mantra I came here to complain about even more absurd. Liberals in the USA stereotype anti-abortionists and the right in general as if they were all white, which is racist. I love how liberals, in their attempt to fight racism and in their attempt to not be racist, end up being it. They think that all minorities think like them or should think like them, and they also assume that ideas they don't like are white thing. You don't need to see a woke they are anti-abortionists are white supremacists to realize the mantra. When they call anti-abortionists old white men, you know they've swallowed the mantra. The worst thing is that the phrase abortion is a murder is translated in their minds as I'm a racist. What a distortion of reality they have. Technically, I could also talk about the mantra that wokes have about banning abortion being a war against women, or that anti-abortionists want The Handmaid's Tale to become real. But I decided to talk about the mantra that the abortionists are racist because it is even more absurd or ridiculous. I mean, if believing that anti-abortionists are misogynist is already ridiculous, imagine believing that anti-abortionists are white supremacists. It's foolery. Like, why? Do you remember what I said almost at the beginning? I will say it again. But woke people in Washington are much more angry and dissociated from reality than wokes here in Latin America, who are annoying in themselves. It's not for nothing that American wokes create mantras like cultural appropriation, or that all the world is more woke than Washingtonia, when it's the other way around, or the Latinx stuff, and then there's this mantra. And yet those wokes are surprised by the arrival of Donald Trump and feel super offended that he was president. Bro, Trump being president is offensive, but not because he's a supposed fascist, he's far from being a fascist, but because he's a complete clown, and that's it. But taking into account that he's a politician, I don't even know why they are surprised that he's a narcissistic liar and a clown, when here in Latin America that's already taken for granted. It's just that we live in Matrix, but hey, it's Washingtonia. I shall not be surprised. The lesson is, before you invent a strawman with which to accuse your opponent in a debate, ask yourself if that strawman even makes sense. Preferably, don't make the strawman, but if you're gonna to make one, at least make one that doesn't make it look like you ate Plants vs Zombies hypno-shrooms before coming up with it. And not everyone who doesn't think like you is a racist or sexist or whatever. And that's the video. I hope you liked this analysis, for which Cry is not going to cancel me this time. Subscribe and give it a like if you liked it, and comment what do you think. Now I'm gonna with Cry, the best person in the world, to continue developing the plan to ban abortion in New York.